Welcome! Today's video is all about this book, Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre. And this book, we're going to analyze this book, analyze the characters, analyze the plot, analyze the theme, the philosophy, and we're going to do everything. So imagine that you wake up, you live your normal life, you do your normal routine, but something feels off. Almost subtly, nearly invisibly, you suddenly realize that nothing around you matters. And this doesn't happen in a dramatic, catastrophic way. This happens subtly. So you sit in the same room you have sat in thousands of times. It's the same chair, the same walls, the same tree, but something feels off. But something feels off. The chair is not just a chair anymore. It's an object. Your hand is not just a hand anymore. It just matters. So this book, even though it seems small, it seems friendly and like an easy read, actually ask one of the deepest philosophical questions, which is, what if nothing has inherent meaning? So it's one of the greatest books in existentialism, and we're going to start off with talking a little bit about the writer and about the historical setting of this book. So let's start off with the author first. This book is written by Jean-Paul Sartre, and he was a writer in 1930s Europe. And the historical setting is very important because 1930s Europe was a very uncertain time. So all the traditional structures were falling apart. So the traditional religious structure were falling apart, the traditional political structure were falling apart, the traditional social hierarchies were falling apart, and there was this feeling that what the traditional and the structures that always had existed, that those couldn't be relied upon anymore. And there's actually some reference to this in the book. There's some reference to the Brown Shirt, which was the early Nazi movement, and there's some references to early Marxism. And out of this uncertainty, out of this uncertain period, existentialism was born, which is the philosophy behind this book. So existentialism is all about seeing reality and normal life without any illusions. And the idea is a very simple one, and it's that we humans, we don't have a predefined meaning or purpose. We live our lives first and we define it through our own actions. And reading this book, you're not just going to get a theoretical explanation of it, you're going to live through it, you're going to realize it yourself. So this book is going to take you on a ride. Now, the main character in this book is a man named Antoine Roquetin, and he's the main character and we're following his life. So he's a writer, he's writing this book about an 18th century aristocrat, and we live his life. So he goes to the library, he does research, and all of his time, and other than that, he spends his time walking around the towns he lives in, which is Bouville. And as you walk through his life, you see that he has no real connections to any friends, no connections or any romantic interest that he has a real connection with. So he seems very isolated, and he is living and floating through life in this very neutral, peaceful way. But then something changes. All the objects around him start to lose their meaning. All the situations around him start to lose their coherence. They're broken down. And he starts to feel this feeling. And it's not confusion. He starts to call this feeling nausea. It's all about that life feels arbitrary. But he says that it's not confusion, but it's clarity. And he actually uses the specific word nausea throughout the book. As you can see, this book is actually a philosophical book, and it's trying to convey a philosophy which is called existentialism. So this book is all about existentialism, and it's seen as one of the greatest books written on existentialism, and it's definitely one of the most famous ones. So the next question becomes, what is actually existentialism? So existentialism is the idea that we humans, we don't have a fixed, predefined purpose. So life is arbitrary, and we defined ourselves. We defined our purpose ourselves through our actions. So this contrasted all the previous ideologies and social structures. As I said, it was written in 1930s Europe, and at that time, religion. Let's take an example. Christian religion said that every human was born with a purpose, and they had a specific purpose throughout their life. Sartre rejects that idea completely. He says that no human has a predefined purpose, but we define ourselves through our actions. At that time, if you were born in a specific social class, you had a specific purpose. If you were born in the aristocracy, if you were born poor, again, Sartre completely rejects that idea. At that time, society in itself has specific structures, But Sartre completely rejects the idea of predefined purpose, of an external authority defining a purpose. It's all about existence being arbitrary and you creating your own meaning through your actions. And that might sound very freeing. It sounds very like a very free idea, but it actually also creates a very big responsibility on you, because if you don't have a predefined purpose, you are responsible for your own purpose. So every action you take matters, and you personally have to take responsibility on all your own actions. You can't blame an external force on them. Two other ideas Sartre brings up in this book that is closely related to existentialism is the idea of absurdity, that everything is random and that humans can do the best they can through their actions, but at the end everything is arbitrary. And the other one is time. Memories become more and more less clear as you look back on them. So to take some very specific examples from the book, one of the central, this is a spoiler alert of course, one of the central things that happen is the character of the self-taught man. So this was a man that was illiterate, but he goes to the library. He's self-taught, as it said, and he reads every book in the alphabet from A. He's starting from A and working himself down. And this character is there to represent humanism, the idea that humans are inherently good. And at the beginning, this character looks like a really lovely guy. He's self-taught. He's very harmless. He seems like a very good friend to Roquetin, the main character. But as you get more and more out into the book, you see that he's actually not as harmless as he seems. It is revealed that he actually is a pedophile. He has a thing for young boys. So even the man that is shown to be the guy that loves humanity the most actually has the most dangerous impulses, which is contradicting the idea that meaning can be found in humanity. Another main plot of this book is the woman that Antoine used to love. Her name was Annie. So this woman is from her past, and he's going to meet her. So he's very, very excited to meet her. He's excited several days in advance, but when they actually meet, the scene is actually very sad. She isn't like he used to remember her. The moments aren't as good as they used to be. So this woman is used as a symbol to symbolize that meaning cannot be found in love, and meaning cannot be found in relationships, because everything is about the perfect time, the perfect moment, the perfect situation. So nothing is how it used to be when you're looking back at those experiences. There is one more thing that people often miss in this book that is very interesting, and it's the meaning of art. So Antoine loves jazz, he loves paintings, arts, and it's a very interesting idea because it's symbolizing that in contrast to human existence, art actually has a very defined purpose behind it. It has a beginning, it has an end. Like a sun, it has a very definite purpose. It has a beginning, it has an end. And as such, human can create objects with purposes like a sun, even though existence isn't purposeful. And another very interesting theme that this book brings up is the concept of time. So he's writing this novel about this 8th century aristocrat, but at a certain point he realizes that time and history in itself is not objective. So when you look back, everything is given a meaning to it. Everything is all about interpretation. It's not possible to present time in an objective way, which is again trying to strengthen the idea of existentialism in itself. So this book is very interesting because to analyze both the plot and the characters, the main character, Antoine, is not a traditional main character. He doesn't grow throughout the book, he doesn't do more things throughout the book, but what happens with him is that he becomes more and more aware throughout the book. So he gets more and more clarity that the world doesn't have a purpose. And that's the kind of way he grows throughout the book. And each of the characters in this book symbolizes an idea, an ideology, and the book shows why they're not correct. So let's take one of the main characters, which is the self-taught man. This man represents all the human ideas like knowledge, like learning. He's very eager to learn everything. He's a humanist. But this book shows that this is a wrong idea, because even the person that seems like the most nice guy, the most human guy, have the worst instincts, and is actually a pedophile. Annie, the girls he love, is again representing a symbol of relationship, love, and also about perfect moments, and why those are not reliable. They don't give meaning to this world. And the jazz, the paintings, the cafe in itself represents human-created existences. So you have the different characters representing different ideas, and you have Antoine that is continuing to grow more and more aware throughout this book. This is the reason why Nausea is seen as such an uncomfortable book. That's how a lot of people define Nausea, as an uncomfortable book. And it's because Sartre doesn't give a clear meaning to you. He's not saying that these ideologies are wrong and this one is the correct one that gives meaning. But you are having the same experience as Antoine. So the more you read throughout this book, the more you are becoming aware of the nausea, that life doesn't have a specific purpose. And the goal of this book is not to convince you of a specific purpose, it's to wake you up, it's to make you see that life doesn't have any purpose. And when you get to that point where you realize that, oh wow, life doesn't have a purpose, you get very uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable truth that the things around you are not stable, they're not as stable as you thought, that you don't have all those structures, but everything is arbitrary, and you have to create your own purpose through your own actions. A lot of people ask the question, is this book still relevant? Because it was written a century ago in a completely different time frame. But the reason this book is also so popular is because it is probably still very relevant. Our society today is also changing a lot, especially with new technology, with social media, and a lot of people are probably feeling the same feeling, that they're isolated, that they're not connected as much, and they're probably feeling on the arbitrary, that life doesn't have a meaning. And this book is a perfect introduction to the ideology, completely perfect introduction to existentialism. A common critique against Nausea is that it's too pessimistic, because it doesn't focus enough on human values and human experiences. But the other side of it is that a lot of people say that the book is a good starting point, because when you first have come to the realization that everything is arbitrary and there's no predefined purpose, you can start at the point of defining your own purpose, like creating jazz that has its own purpose, has its beginning and has its own end. As a conclusion, I would recommend everyone to read Nausea, because this book, even though you don't believe personally in existentialism, it will definitely give you a very good introduction to that philosophical thought. It will make you grow as a person, it will make you understand other ideas, and it is just completely perfectly written. It takes you through the whole experience, because this is not a theoretical explanation of existentialism. It will make you feel all the same feelings that Antoine has in the book. And even though right now you might think that, wow, maybe life doesn't have any meaning and it doesn't have a specific purpose, and that's a very good thing in a way, because that gives you the freedom to create your own purpose. This book doesn't have to be a negative and dark experience, it doesn't have to make you uncomfortable, but it could be seen as something very positive, that now you can define your own purpose. Now, thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button.